So whether the people that we're supposed to elevate are on yet?
Let me open up that email.
It should be the first one is what I'm concerned about.
Trying to get
Would
things
be,
done.
I think Alexis
But I'm sure,
Speakus,
Yeah, I've got it in front of me. I've got, well,
and Jack Greenwood would be the
Yeah, no,
ones, I think, that are doing the presentation.
okay.
So,
Why we have Kate, why don't we ask her about other?
Jack Greenwood, Robin Felsher.
and nobody has told me that they're not going, oh, can I see the attendance sheet?
Yes.
Please
Let me
pass.
sign in.
But
There, I'm in.
here, why don't we ask her about all the things you've been emailing her about?
Yes, wait, 10.
We have Kate here, why don't we ask her all the things she's been emailing her
Sure,
about?
why not? Kate, listen,
She's,
one, want to follow up with you on, Kate, is West 3rd Street. Since we have you before we go on,
Yeah.
before it gets impossible to walk around, can we please set up something?
Yep.
You know.
I apologize for the delay. I followed up with some of my colleagues internally on that one. And I can reach out about setting something up soon. And I apologize for how long it's taken on our end.
Yeah, it's really a terrible situation and it's been going on. Well, I don't have to tell you. You've gotten
Maybe we
so.
should.
We have quorum now.
Oh, we've got a quorum. Great. Okay, wait, let me.
We'll talk offline.
Joe Flayhaven is here, but he's not, he's remote. But that's okay.
why don't you start the meeting and I'll take it to this.
Yes. Oh, okay, will you do that? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so, we all on and having our, they can hear us? You can hear them? Okay, hi there, everybody. Welcome to Community Board 2, Manhattan's Traffic and Transportation
doing
Committee. I'm Shirley
Oh, I'm
Secunda.
still
Before
not
I
on
go
here.
further, I would just like to introduce you to my committee. So, do you want to start, Janine?
Sure, I'm Janine Kiley, member of the committee.
Lois Rackoff, full board member, member of the committee.
Dan Miller, and a public member,
And he's also our host tonight, which
and I'm
means
hosting.
he's working the mechanism of this meeting. How about you, Susan?
Susan County, full board member and committee member.
Janet Liff, full board and committee member.
And Ben Listman, full board member and committee member.
Right, okay. So before I go further, oh, and here we have another committee member.
Right.
Will you introduce yourself?
Hi, Rocio Sands.
So I'll introduce you. Raise your hand.
I said Rocio Sands.
Okay, so this is Rocio Sands, another full board member of the Traffic Transportation Committee. So we have more than a quorum now. I have just one brief. Rocio,
No, I checked her name out.
Oh, okay. Yes. I have an announcement. Oh, and there's Stella Fitzgerald online, who is also a full board member.
Everybody's here.
Hi, Stella.
No.
So you got a lot of people here. So you want to make.
I got
make
it.
Stella
I got
famous, but she's online, but
Yes,
kosher.
yes.
Okay, I have an announcement. Dan was our fabulous vice chair, but now he's a public member, and public members cannot be vice chairs of the committee. So we actually have two co-vice chairs to introduce, which are Janet Litt and Janine Carley. So,
Very good.
Mark, we're gonna have to add their names as vice chairs.
Yeah, well, my
Okay,
name still isn't on.
So that's one thing. Okay, now I'm just gonna go right into the routine. And the routine being, and for all, I know a lot of you know what our routine is, but for those of you who do not know, I will tell you. We have our agenda. On our agenda tonight, there are actually 3 items. And we hear each item separately, one at a time. And in each of those cases, then once whoever is presenting or doing the request does their overview, the committee asks questions. Just the committee asks questions. And after the committee asks questions, this is for each of the items separately, then we open it to the floor for our public guests. And they both ask questions and they give commentary as well. You can, by the way, anybody that wants these, please help yourself.
Send it.
That's for the
Oh,
budget.
I signed yours.
But okay.
Yeah. and I
So
said-
that is actually what happens, that once we get that feed in, then we go to what we call business session. And business session is when the committee discusses whatever input we've received during the session and whether we will do resolutions, whether we will approve of what people have asked for, and so on. Not the end, goes the full board then. And I never remember the date. Do anybody remember the date of the full board? It's going to be in October. We have a September meeting, but it's the end of September.
October 24th,
Okay.
Thursday.
Thursday, October 24th will be the full board meeting. So then you'll have time to think about it a lot before you want to attend the full board meeting. But if you would want to attend the full board meeting to follow up on whatever goes on tonight, that will be discussed again for the full board. That is, all the committees do their reports on what's gone on in their committee meetings, and then the full board votes on them, and that's final. And then whatever the vote is, there will be there is a resolution ready, which comes out of our committee, and that will go, in our case, it will go to the Department of Transportation or to MTA, New York City Transit, or to maybe another city agency that is dealing with a transportation issue that we would be addressing. And ground rules, okay, ground rules. You by now know, I mean, here committee members know, they raise their hands. You by now know, you people who use Zoom, that there's a hand raising symbol on your screens, which you can use, and that we will then call on you for your comments. We try to keep you muted until you talk, because we really want the meetings to keep moving, and want to have people each have their chance to talk. And I really think that's about it. Does anybody else remember anything else that we should be telling people? No? Okay. So we're, oh, somebody, well, yeah, you may have your hand raised. You want to ask about, okay, no, you want to ask about the procedure, Annie? Or do you just have your hand raised because you want to talk when your item comes up?
Unmute.
No, hi, this is Annie. I don't know. Can you see me? It doesn't look like it.
No.
Okay.
Not
So
sure
we'll be calling in you when your item comes up, which is number 2.
Okay, all right, fine.
And then,
Okay,
and you'll
great.
be able to see us
Anybody
at
have
that time.
Okay. Anybody have questions about the agenda though? Okay. So when that comes up, Annie, we'll call on you anyhow, but you can raise your hand. Okay, so that's really it. And so we're going to go to the first item on the agenda, which is a proposal for pedestrian safety upgrades at the intersection of West 10th Street and Greenwich Avenue, including design modifications at the northwest corner, signalization changes such as time, pedestrian intervals, daylighting, curb management, and adding a stop sign at West 10th Street and Waverly Place. And this corner has been a kind of hazardous one for years, but really it has come to a crux now because a very sad situation happened. There was a turn from the east on 10th Street, and then turning north, and a woman was hit and killed on that corner of that crosswalk. And so it's kind of brought it to a head, and the folks from Transportation Alternatives actually have offered to get the ball rolling, so to speak, so we can try to get the improvements that are needed there. And to that, I'm going to turn it over. I think it's.
Yeah, we have Robin Felcher. She's already been elevated as a panelist.
Yeah, but I think who's presenting it is Alexis Speakus. Alexis, I hope.
Alexis Speakus, okay.
Your last name.
Okay,
We have her?
yep.
Okay.
I just,
Alexis, are you going to be the one who's presenting tonight? We have her on?
yeah, we're waiting for her.
She elevated?
She's been asked.
I see Robin. Hi, Robin.
Can you hear me?
Alexis? Can we?
Yeah, I actually
on
asked,
screen?
I asked Jack to go on it. He declined.
What?
Yeah, okay, I'll ask Jack again. He declined before. I'll try him again.
Alexis.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can't see her?
Declined the other, she declined to be.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Alexis, we see you. Okay.
Hi, great. Sorry about that audio.
And Jack Greenwood as well is on too, who is also a transportation alternatives, right? Hi. Okay, Alexis, go right ahead.
Great, let me just pull up the slide.
Great.
Great, can everyone see the slideshow?
Yep.
All right, thank you so much for having us here this evening. My name is Alexis Speakus, great pronunciation over there. I will be presenting along with Robin Felsher, community member, and Jack Greenwood, who does research at Transportation Alternatives. I am the Families for Safe Streets organizer. Families for Safe Streets is an organization comprised of people who have lost loved ones or who have themselves been injured in due to traffic violence. So thank you again for having us here today. So we are here because there are some big changes that need to happen to this intersection. And as you alluded to, or as you spoke on, there was unfortunately a really awful crash at this intersection almost a year ago. Robin, would you like to say something?
Yes, I have a written statement which I'd like to read to the committee. As many of you know, Lori was struck by an SUV at the intersection of Greenwich Avenue and West 10th Street on October 3rd, 2023. Her death was not only senseless, but possibly preventable if additional pedestrian safety measures were to be in place at that intersection. As a resident of 33 Greenwich Avenue, which is at the intersection of Greenwich Avenue and West 10th Street, there are daily challenges for pedestrians like me. While Greenwich Avenue was once a sleepy stretch of roadway between 6th Avenue and 7th Avenue 15 years ago, it has since become a restaurant-saturated block face. This has resulted in third-party app companies offloading and loading patrons anywhere on Greenwich Avenue between West 10th Street and Charles Street, particularly between the hours of 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. most of the days of the week. The saturation of drivers is particularly dense on Friday nights and weekends. There's no daylighting at any of the corners, which hampers the line of sight for any vehicle that has to make a left or right turn from West 10th Street onto Greenwich Avenue. These turns are especially dangerous as pedestrians have to compete with drivers trying to make the light. There are vehicles which speed almost unimpeded on West 10th Street from 7th Avenue eastward to 6th Avenue on any given day. And then there's the double parking, and you'll see a slide of this, trucks that actually park in the westbound lane facing eastbound. There are roadbed sheds. It is a challenge for the best of us who are even watching as we cross. And I implore the committee to take the necessary pedestrian leading interval, have that installed, and anything else that will calm that intersection and prevent the tragedy that befell Lori last year. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, so as Robin said, these crashes are entirely preventable, and we really need to make some changes to prevent our neighbors, our loved ones from being killed or seriously injured on our streets. Lori's death could have been prevented with some small changes. So right now, these are the existing conditions. you can walk around the neighborhood and see that there's a lot going on at this intersection. There is a bike lane. There is the fire department. There's all of this lovely scaffolding that has popped up recently. So all of this means that there's just a lot of competition for space. And it means that vehicles end up in places where they should not be, like doing loading and unloading in the crosswalk. So we've identified 3 key safety challenges here at this location. First off, there is the speeding. Eastbound speeding from 7th Avenue down 10th is often trying to make the light, and there is nothing to slow that down. The second problem is visibility. There's a real lack of visibility at the crosswalks. This is exacerbated by sidewalk sheds, double parking, and a whole host of other things. And lastly, something that Robin touched on in her remarks is that the light timing is really abysmal. There's an absence of timed pedestrian intervals, leading pedestrian intervals. So drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians are all moving at the same time. So of course they're coming into conflict with one another. And so Jack is going to talk us through some of the ways to tackle these challenges in detail. But top level is that a stop sign at Waverly Street or Waverly Place on 10th Street could reduce speeding to make the light. Raised crosswalks can help improve visibility, and daylighting can improve visibility so that pedestrians and drivers and cyclists can all see one another. And a leading pedestrian interval would give pedestrians a head start so that they are in the intersection and they have more time to move through the intersection. So I'm going to pass it off to Jack now.
Thanks, Alexis. So as we noted before, there is an intersection 1 block away, which is 10th and Waverly, that drivers speed through because even though it is an intersection, there's no stop sign, there are no crosswalks to indicate that pedestrians are there, and it gives drivers a straightaway. And therefore, when they're coming along 10th, sometimes they'll try to gun it through this intersection. And so one of the recommendations we're giving is that there is a stop sign, so that there is at least a pause, at least a full complete stop, so that drivers don't feel as compelled to approach 10th and Greenwich with the same speed. In addition, we are recommending raised sidewalks. So these are sidewalks that are grade level with the curb. It actually acts as both a speed bump and an elevation for pedestrians. So there's much better visibility between drivers and pedestrians. Across the US, these sorts of interventions have reduced pedestrian crashes by up to 45%. Daylighting is the concept that when you remove all parking around an intersection, it increases visibility for all users. That's both drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, everybody. And usually this is done with physical infrastructure. So you may see these around the city with bollards, paint. It can be done in a myriad of ways, but it is really, really important so that drivers can see that they are not approaching an intersection with their sightlines blocked, and pedestrians aren't forced to poke their heads out from behind parked cars in order to leapfrog across the intersection. We saw earlier that image of the pedestrian attempting to cross the street where there was a truck unloading in the crosswalk. Daylighting measurements would prevent that truck from even unloading in the first place, which would do a great deal for visibility and has been hugely successful in Hoboken at reducing pedestrian injuries by 30%. Leaving pedestrian intervals is also another really simple and effective fix. All it is changing the signal timing. So it's giving pedestrians a 7-second head start to get into the intersection before the light turns green for drivers. That way, if drivers are turning, the pedestrians are already in the intersection or may have already crossed the intersection, and therefore, again, increases visibility between all users. This has been a very cheap, simple fix and has reduced fatalities and serious injuries in New York by 30%. And then there are additional curb management tactics that we could take even beyond these recommendations. For example, a designated neighborhood loading zone. These are sections of curb that are designated specifically for commercial delivery and for personal vehicle drop-offs. They are as simple as putting up a sign and designating that length of curb space as specified for that use. It has reduced double parking in the city by up to 70% in the neighborhoods where they've been piloted, and it can be established simply by repurposing some public parking spaces. So this is a visual of what we are talking about in implementing these changes. Again, we have a raised crosswalk so that when a pedestrian is crossing across the intersection, they are a little bit taller and therefore a little bit more visible to drivers. The crosswalk itself, because there is a bit of a slope, acts as a speed bump, so drivers are less likely to speed through this intersection. We also have some daylighting mechanisms, so you can see on either side of the raised crosswalk, we have a little bit of curb space carved out so that people who are driving cannot physically park there, and therefore, again, increases visibility. And then up here we have LPIs, again, leaving pedestrian intervals, signalizing the crosswalk to go ahead of the traffic light so that pedestrians can get across safely or get into the intersection safely. Again, increasing visibility between all users. Just as a different view, this is coming along 10th, approaching the intersection, same features. Implementing daylighting. Here you can see there is a Jeep I've pulled from Google Maps. They are across the line, they're approaching the intersection, but they are parked there, and that is decreasing visibility for everybody. If you had physical daylighting there, it would not be possible for them to park there. As a reminder, they shouldn't be parking there anyway, but people should not be parking this close to the intersection. It's already legal. Daylighting simply allows it to be a physical barrier to doing so. And last but not least, mentioning once again the stop sign a block up. So this is one block before the intersection we were just looking at. Simply implementing a stop sign and a crosswalk would force drivers to pause here and therefore eliminate the straightaway that incentivizes them to speed through the previous intersection. So these are all pretty simple fixes that we believe would really help increase the safety at this intersection and prevent any more serious injuries and fatalities from occurring. With that, we'd like to open it up to questions.
Right, okay, so now the committee will ask questions. So anybody have a question? Okay, Susan, and then Janine.
Are there other raised crosswalks in Manhattan?
There are. I can definitely find additional examples to demonstrate this, but yes, raised crosswalks are a tool in the Department of Transportation toolset, and all the stats I want to all the stats for all these interventions. I realized I gave a national stat for raised crosswalks, but they have been effective in New York City as well at reducing pedestrian serious injury. So I can definitely find the list.
Thank you. I just wanted to know. I mean, I have undoubtedly crossed on one and not even realized it. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, they exist.
So Janine.
I think this is a great plan. And I am very sorry for the loss of life a year ago. And I've said this before at TNT meetings, is why does somebody have to die before we get a change? Which is what happened at Houston and 6th Avenue more than a dozen years ago when a woman was dragged by a flatbed truck. And then they immediately had people out there next week. So I guess my question, and as is sort of going to weigh in as we go through the third agenda item, is raise costs, crosswalks, daylighting, and LPI. Like what's the cost of these? And so I can understand what is the break, how much we can push for these at other locations as well.
Sorry.
I can chime in a little bit on that. And thank you for the presentation and my sincere condolences for the loss of life as well. For daylighting, I can't give you an exact number on the cost of the daylighting and the raised crosswalks, but these are come out of DOT's expense budget and usually are something that we can install quickly depending on the resources and staffing available. So we've come to CB2 in the past with what we call SIPs, our street improvement projects, and typically daylighting is, and some of these changes that were mentioned are included in those short-term projects. And also just add for this location that we have asked our colleagues to study the possibility of installing daylighting. It's not an immediate turnaround. It does take some time because all the requests we receive have to be studied. But we're willing to undertake other efforts to look at this location as well for other treatments if they meet the warrant.
Okay.
Lucia.
Can you please talk about the raised crosswalks and what is the elevation for the raised crosswalk from the sidewalks? And how would they impact people with wheelchairs and strollers and people with mobility problems?
Yeah, so the raised crosswalk just bring that part of the crosswalk up to the sidewalk level. So it actually makes things a lot easier for folks that would need to be like in a wheelchair or with a stroller. Then they don't have to go like down and then back up. In the winter, they don't have to worry about if there's a giant slush puddle that they have to go through because of the dip. It'll just make it the pedestrian experience totally flat.
Yes, so what is the elevation once you get to the top of the highest point from the normal level street? Some people cannot walk, let's say once they hit like this, they may have difficulties to get over the bump. In other words, what is the elevation?
It's flat at the crosswalk.
It's level.
It's flat, but it's.
So you would have how many inches is the curve?
It depends on the curve.
So it doesn't go.
It just, no. it
No, that's
doesn't exceed the
totally
curve.
flat.
Yeah, it's a silent.
Thank you.
okay.
But you will have a step
Dan
down
is
if you did
next.
walk.
I'm gonna ask you to study this area. Have you received any feedback on cyclist behavior at this intersection? Is it something that you feel doesn't need mitigation? Is the raised side crossing gonna help that if there is any issues? Have you gotten any feedback from cyclist behavior at this intersection? In other words, racing e-bikes or anything else, or is that not being discussed at all?
So for this location, speaking from my office at DOT, haven't heard that many complaints or about the cyclist activity here. I mean, obviously, we get complaints and concerns of cyclists at large, not always following the rules of the road as many of them should. But for this location specifically, we have not we have not studied that specifically. So we're currently looking at if daylighting is feasible here, and following the community board's recommendations, would evaluate the additional treatments that were mentioned earlier.
Okay, and then,
So, I mean, again, like, it seems like each of the treatments is kind of being spoken about individually, almost like you're talking about evaluating daylighting on its own. Is that normally how the DOT looks at street improvement projects? Or would you look at sort of implementing all of these things, not necessarily curb management, for example, but the physical infrastructure? Would you look at implementing them and look at feasibility as a whole for daylighting, for pedestrian signals and things like that? And I mean, I guess and for the committee, if that's something, for example, we wanted to put on an expense request, when we submit our budget priorities, is that something that we would want to would we want to combine those requests, or would we want those individually?
I think maybe this is good for when we get to the budget requests.
Yeah.
I guess,
stick around for that case.
When you're looking at feasibility, do you look at
You have
these
to move
individually
on
or together?
really to talk about the item at hand. Lois. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
hi, let's go back to the crosswalk, the raised crosswalk. Can you refer us to a location?
Yeah.
That we could see or actually go to and see and walk over, or take the bus to go and actually see it? Because I'm trying to visualize it, but my imagination is not that great, and I would like a very concrete vision of what it looks like. Do you have a location?
See, Carter put in the chat that there's a raised crosswalk at Bedford Street and 6th Avenue. I apologize, I don't have a list of corners off of.
I don't even know this.
Is it actually lowering the sidewalk?
Lois, I'm going to explain it to you very simply. Okay.
Lowering the sidewalk.
Because the width of the crosswalk,
Yes.
across the street from one sidewalk curb to another.
Right.
The only difference between that and the regular crosswalk is the regular crosswalk is level with the
Right.
street. This is raised.
So the
And it's
stripes
raised-
are raised?
It's raised the height of the sidewalk. So
I understand
it's
that.
going across, everybody. It's going across just like a crosswalk, except instead of being level on the street, it is at the height of the
So
sidewalk.
it's one
So
solid
it makes it
strip.
much easier to be seen. It
Thank
stops
you.
Automobiles from going, or if they're gonna go, they have to go very slowly.
Good.
But
Thanks.
it's not a speed hump, which would be
No, it's not a speed.
rounded.
Right.
This is flat, but flat with the sidewalk.
Thank you.
level.
So there is no curb on that particular.
Well,
So the
there's
sidewalk has been
curb-
lowered.
Curbs on the sidewalk,
Yes, but
and the curb just extends into the crosswalk.
There's curb next adjacent.
flat.
Okay?
There's also a photo, I believe,
Yes.
in the presentation that Transportation Alternative showed. It was from, I believe, from DOT's website, East 5th Street in Fort Hamilton. I think you had the
So
example.
you just said it.
Yeah, that one. That's what it looks like.
Susan,
Just to put concerns about the elevation of these things to rest, I am here to say that I have walked, as I suspected, many times on this one on Bedford Street and didn't
Okay.
even identify it as some sort of strange obstacle.
Good.
It's a very subtle and sensible intervention, and there's nothing really dramatic in terms of its impact on pedestrians here.
Good.
anything is
Thank
good
you.
for pedestrians.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Janet,
Yes, this is DOT, Kate, Transportation looked at the intersection and then out to Waverly Place. But does DOT prefer to look at holistically? Because obviously there's all sorts of things happening. There's people coming up Sixth Avenue and taking that turn faster, you know. Is it adequate to look at the single intersection, or would it be better to look at maybe the entire like Greenwich Avenue and how it functions?
I can ask my colleagues if we can do a larger, more zoomed out study of the area. I'll just say, a lot of the times we receive complaints on individual locations, or there are incidents, and crashes, and when we receive, you know, either questions or complaints or concerns from the community, we are required to go out and study specific locations. So oftentimes, you know, we'll get a request for a specific intersection for a stop sign and go out and evaluate the whether a signal for stop signs and other signals, we have to follow federal guidelines when we install signals. So it is often piecemeal because of the way we receive, you know, information from the public, but we do look at larger areas for larger projects and improvements.
Okay, everybody on the committee done? I have questions. Okay, mostly I have questions about your recommendations as to where to put these things. So I'll go through the things that you've recommended. I know the stop sign, you said 10th Street and 7th Avenue. So, how about, where would you see the LPIs being? Just on Greenwich Avenue, on 10th Street? What's your recommendation?
So with the LPIs, traditionally, it is done for all corners of that intersection. So.
But it would be, it's a northwest corner, right? I mean, you're not going to have the southwest corner crossing across 10th Street, right? I mean, are you recommending for all corners, all four corners, the crossing? The problem with the crossing is Greenwich Avenue, right?
Right.
So it's the.
So we would signalize those to be 7 seconds ahead of the.
Where?
Crossing Greenwich.
Okay, so that's the northwest corner, is that correct?
And the south.
Is it south as well? Yeah, because you'd be crossing the other way as well. So it's a total intersection, right? Is that correct? We have to know what to recommend, okay?
Yeah, it would be the southwest and northwest corner.
So it would be the entire intersection, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the entire intersection of Greenwich and 10th. Okay. Okay, so the raised crosswalk, which we've been talking about so much, where do you recommend that be?
We'd recommend that on the northwest corner. And Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe it's standard practice to have more than one raised crosswalk in a given intersection. At that point, you would have a raised intersection, which I believe is a much more substantial project than raising just one crosswalk. But because the northwest crosswalk is the most trafficked one, we think that's where it would have the most impact.
Right. Okay, the crosswalk on Greenwich Avenue, right?
Correct.
So the raised crosswalk to the Greenwich, it's south and north because it's west and east. Okay, northwest crosswalk across Greenwich Avenue. Correct?
Correct, on the north side.
Okay. Okay, now there were a couple of other things. Oh, yeah. Did you have any thoughts about where a neighborhood loading zone might be?
There is further up on 10th Street. There's a city bike dock there. I would be interested to know on the north side or on the south side of Greenwich, feel like that requires a more in-depth conversation with business owners to see what their needs are.
So, okay, I just want to get this clear. So in other words, to consider the possibility, right,
Yes, yes,
of a neighborhood loading zone on Greenwich Avenue.
correct.
Okay. Because there is loading and unloading there anyhow with all the commercial. Right, okay, commercial area. All right, now, I have something that's kind of a pet thing that we've been asking DOT for forever. And that's a split phase. So you know what a split phase is, right? Instead of an LPI. Because an LPI, it doesn't guarantee that a car is going to stop endlessly while you're crossing.
It just gives you 7
So we
seconds.
kind of customarily always ask for a split phase. Split phase being that it's green all at one time or red all at one time. So that when the car wouldn't be able to turn. You see what I mean?
Yes.
You all see what I mean? Kate, how often do you do split phases? We've been asking forever.
They're pretty common, but I will have to add again, this is another request that we would review when considering the any changes to signals.
But this is something where we might say, consider a split phase or an LPI, right? I mean, we could ask for that solution.
Yes.
Okay, how about you folks? Do you understand what I mean? And are you on board for something like that? Alexis or Jack? No
I think
answer?
we're happy to explore any other recommendations that the community board has.
Split phase or LPI.
Personally
Okay.
don't know about split phasing, but it sounds kind of similar to like a Barnes dance, which could also, or a scramble crosswalk, which could also, you know, we're open to considering anything to improve.
Right, yeah, and that's a whole different thing, really, is the barn sense, because that's all direct. Okay, never mind. Okay, last question. I think I did ask you this too, that we had been thinking about extending the corner. You were talking about extending the corner. And in other words, a neck down, a bulb out, whatever, at that northwest corner. And wondered if you were able to check the firehouse as to how they felt about that. Because that would be ideal. It would slow down the turning vehicles, except maybe the fire engines need not to be slowed down at that point.
So we have started a conversation with the fire department, but we by no means have anything like concretely nailed out. Robin and I just popped in to say hi and let them know what we were thinking. So I think that conversation would need to be fleshed out, but we're happy to have that conversation.
Yeah, and if you have it, just let us know. But maybe we'll throw that in, you know. But whatever the case, I've asked my questions. Now that we have a guest, do you have some questions or comments?
Yes, comments.
Okay.
You come to the
great.
table.
So some of you may remember.
Can you come up so we
Oh,
can,
and identify yourself, please.
So where should I?
just sit maybe here?
Here?
Yeah, just move that back.
You want, oh, yeah, right, let me get this stuff out of here for you. I can do this here.
My name is Josh Spodak. I've lived in 33 Greenwich Avenue since the 1990s. So I'm a neighbor with Robin. I was actually there the night that Lori got hit. And around that time, I proposed here to make Greenwich Avenue, or I was looking into making Greenwich Avenue an open street, which I think there's a lot, and so I'll come in here and the people are asking, what about the bigger picture there? So I want to mention a few things. Also, I've been a cyclist the whole time. One of the big things, if you looked at Greenwich Avenue on a map, it might look like it's an easy way to go from 6th Avenue to 7th Avenue, or from 7th Avenue to 6th Avenue. But unlike every other cross street, it's got 2 lights on the way. So it's actually slower for cars. It's not useful for cars. It looks like a shortcut, but it's actually a slow cut. So to calm the traffic down, I think would help. There's on Greenwich Avenue, PS 41 that lets out onto Greenwich Avenue. And the parents all wait on the sidewalk. And I've talked to a couple and they don't realize that if the street were if that were an open street, how much more space would be safe for kids there? Trivia, Robert De Niro and Scarlett Johansson both went to PS 41. There's also a library, Jefferson Market Library, which is a big community center as well. And that's on Greenwich Avenue between Christopher and 10th. So that's another place where kids could be, where people could be, and traffic. It's on 6th Avenue, but there's the Jefferson Market Gardens, I guess, opens onto Greenwich Avenue.
Right. And
that could be more of a community center, but there's a lot of traffic, especially coming up 6th, because they come fast. There's a hospital on 7th Avenue, and so I've seen ambulances on Greenwich Avenue trying to go south, just stuck. And so things that would remove cars from there, I think would possibly save lives. I'm not sure if this is relevant to traffic, but we all know that the northwest corner of Washington Square Park and 6th Avenue, a lot of homeless, a lot of drug use. There's increasing number of syringes that are showing up here. Things that would make things more open and visible, I think would help that. I'm not sure if that's relevant to traffic, but I think it's worth bringing up. That's most of what I wanted to say. That where that Jeep was in the crosswalk, I think that whole side of the street is all placards. It's all fire. To park on that side of this, on 10th Street where the firehouse is, that Jeep is going to park wherever it wants because it's got fire. That whole side of the street. But if that were all, if more on Saturday nights, on Friday nights, it's really loud. It's really congested. It didn't used to be like that. And it's not, the cars aren't getting anywhere. I don't think it helps businesses that people are just stuck and honking all the time. So I think what they're talking about sounds nice. I would go farther. It seems like there's a few places, if it was made one way, like no traffic on one side so that the fire trucks can turn and just have no impedance. I think that would help a lot. But also to make it all pedestrian only seems like a really good candidate for it. And I've talked to some of the businesses. I haven't heard anyone say they didn't like it. I've talked to people who've done open streets in other places. And I'm happy to answer more questions because I've been there a long time.
I have a question. I think it's more to Kate. I was not under the impression that you could have emergency trucks going through open streets. Can they, Kate?
Sorry, say that again, Shirley?
And emergency trucks, would they have access to open streets?
Yeah, emergency vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks can go through open streets. It's just a matter of moving the barricades, and a lot of the times the organizations that we partner with to host the open streets will have volunteers or staff that are there to assist with those to assist with moving the barriers in those moments. And we also, DOT works with the Horticultural Society to maintain various open streets as well. I'm just curious, did you apply for an open street, or perhaps we can connect offline and however you want to proceed?
I talked to a couple of people in the city whose names escape me at the moment, but I can get that. And I talked to some of the nearby business improvement district people as well.
Okay. I can put my contact information in the chat, or Shirley or Dan wants to share it. If you'd like to shoot me an email about that, and we can see if that's something that we could discuss further.
Okay. Anything else, Josh?
I can answer questions if it helps out.
Yeah. Janet has a question.
The bus that comes across on 8th Street, does the bus coming from the west side come down Greenwich and then go to 8th Street? There's a bus on 8th Street.
There's a bus that comes up 10th Street and turns right and then goes over to 8th Street.
Okay, so it doesn't come down Greenwich. There's no bus on Greenwich.
It goes on Greenwich, it turns right onto Greenwich from 10th Street.
The end to 6th and then to 8th. It comes, okay. 10th turns towards 6th Avenue. In other words, east, I guess.
So it comes on 10th and then down Greenwich to get to 8th Street.
Yeah,
And then it comes across 6th Avenue into 8th Street.
So if it were, there's definitely lots of treatments one could do with this, but if it were an open street, it would not interfere with the bus. If the open streets started kind of on the other side of 10th Street. Because you have a bus, it has to come down Greenwich.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there was a point when we wanted to try to close that little piece of Greenwich Avenue to combine it with Ruth Wittenberg Triangle, but DOT didn't want to do that.
it also,
Is that because of the
really
bus?
wide.
What, and we wanted to relocate the buses, but it never happened. I don't know.
That block right there in front of Jefferson Market Gardens is really wide. Like the northbound side of Greenwich Avenue has like an extra lane. It's kind of unused.
Oh, maybe that was it. All I know is we wanted to extend Ruth Wittenberg Triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah, into Greenwich Avenue.
Seems like.
Was it that they could still, maybe the bus could still go? Whatever the case, it never came to be. I know we asked for it. Yeah, which is another.
It feels like that garden, if we could move that garden, expand it, would be really nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Have like a little farmer's market there.
Sure. No. Okay, anybody else?
I just think that it needs a discussion for something further on.
Anybody online, Dan?
No one else has raised, oops, there's one person that just raised their hand.
Okay.
Moment. It is,
This is not, yeah.
that's Carter. It's probably gonna say the same thing. There we go. It's not an agenda item.
So Carter?
Carter?
Hey, everyone. It's Carter Booth. I'm also Community Board 2 member. First, I wanted to express my most heartfelt condolences to Robin. You know, Lori's a wonderful person, a community member, participant with CB2 on many local issues, leader with Jefferson Market Garden, among other things. I can't imagine your loss. For the topic tonight, my observation and question here is about fitting too many uses on this two-way road. It doesn't sound to me like anyone's aware, and I've raised this before, Greenwich Avenue is one of the few New York City designated truck routes in CB2. And to me, as a bike rider and user of Greenwich Avenue, there's just too much going on there most of the time. And the existing situation isn't very safe, as everyone's acknowledging here. Has anyone considered making Greenwich Avenue one way, similar to 8th Street? Just over to the east, or possibly eliminating the truck route, or eliminating all of the curb uses on Greenwich if it continues to be two-way. I don't know if those are all easy things to change, but outside of Houston, Bowery, and Canal Street, we don't have any other two-way truck routes, and each of those truck routes are multi-lane and have absolutely no resemblance to Greenwich Avenue. And I think some of these suggestions that we're hearing are for smaller streets, but this is a truck route. This isn't just a small street, and I think that that's missing from this conversation. What's going on here, and just the fact that two 18-wheelers could cross paths here, people riding bikes, what's going on the curb lane uses, schools, bike racks, dining sheds, that seems to me what's not really being acknowledged about what this stretch is. And you just need to look at 8th Street a little further to the east to see a much better usage of the roadbed that is probably not too much narrower than what Greenwich Avenue is.
So I have some questions, Carter. First of all, Carter, the whole idea is what's been presented here is to make that crossing a little shorter so it'll be safer for pedestrians. So to my way of thinking, the way I visualize it, if you make it one way, then you just put back what you are trying to take away.
but it's.
Which is widening the street further. So are you saying the truck route is two-way, pardon my ignorance? But is it a two-way truck route there?
Yeah, it's a two-way truck route, but I think that 8th Street, they have a bike lane. They have they've done exactly what you're discussing here with all along 8th Street of really implementing a lot of traffic calming measures with a not a protected bike lane, but a separated bike lane there. And I'm just raised that because it's somewhat similar. It may be a little wider on Greenwich Avenue, but I think there's too much going on there. And I think that that's a part of what just makes this a very unsafe roadway. I mean, when I ride my bike up there, for example, to go to the west side or whatever, it's not a comfortable place to be. I don't think it's a comfortable place to be for the car drivers when you have another car coming the other direction. I can't imagine 2 trucks coming at each other on that street. It just doesn't really make sense to me the way it's designed with all of those different elements. And yes, all these are good ideas, but I think underneath there may be some other larger issues. And I'm and a part of that might just be the designation of Greenwich Avenue as a truck route. Maybe that's not what is the best idea. But I just raised that because I don't know how you could make a truck route an open street. That seems to me like it would be immediately because you have limited mobility for trucks. I mean, these are all loaded into their GPSs, on where they can go. There's a whole lot of stuff.
It's really interesting, but we'll have to discuss that in business session because it is an interesting point. Whatever, thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Charlie, I remember many years ago, I think there were 1 or 2 school kids that were crossing the street right by where St. Vincent was, that same area where St. Vincent's was. And then I think a mother and a kid.
Yes,
I remember
right, killing.
that's all the same area. So this is not the first step.
No, this has
Has
been
occurred.
a hazardous place for a long
Very
time.
dangerous.
Okay, well, you're very welcome to stick around for our business session when we'll be discussing this more and coming to some conclusions. And we thank you very much for all this input. And we surely hope we can do something to at least make that crossing safe, for goodness sake. So now we're going to move on.
Yes.
We are moving on to our next. Our next item.
Thank you all, much appreciated.
Okay, thank you again. Okay, right. It's a request to co-name 7th Avenue South and Charles Street.
How do I share?
Crapanzano Lane. And we've got Annie. Are you here?
Yes, she was speaking.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Annie, yes, see you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And a special hello to Shirley. I used to be a community board member.
Right, and I
Years
remember.
ago, I cannot remember which year it was, but I think I started the same year that Carter started. I was part of that promotion. And I'm, salute you for still doing this great service to the community. So today I wanted to talk.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about my actually next door neighbor. I live 15 Charles Street, and Frank Crapanzano used to live on 15 Charles Street as well, right next to my apartment. And I think he moved here 50 years ago. I'm here in my apartment with a few neighbors, and Frank died in 2021. So you're going to hear about, he was involved in many things, with his church, with the community. But the one thing we would like to honor, him with is his effort at really rejuvenating and reviving the little square. It's a triangle, it's a square, but it's a triangle that's called McCarthy Square. That's on 7th Avenue, Charles Street, and Waverly Place. And it really started about 20 years ago. At that time, Frank was retired from, he has been a teacher in the Bronx as a theater acting, teacher. And he grew up in New Jersey. I had absolutely no experience gardening, but decided this park, we have got to do something much better. And a few pictures are worth, 1,000 words. So I'm going to show you a few before and after pictures. So he has spent, a lot of his time and his money as well. And again, he was a retired teacher, so certainly not a wealthy man, and also fundraising among the community. So I'm showing you a few pictures here. So that's what, yeah. Yeah, this was already said. So this is the square before.
But that's fine.
Do you see the picture? Yeah.
No, we see Frank.
You still see Frank. Okay, so thank you for letting me know. I know what I did.
Frank got pictures to pass around to you in person.
What about now? No.
Yes, I'll be coming. In a second, it's a different look. See a white page right now.
So what about now? Still not? Tiens, viens m'aider, Jeff.
There you go.
There you go,
You can
yes.
see it.
Okay, so that's what the park looked like, in the past.
So what you want to do is just share the screen and not the image. Because then that'll give you flexibility to use whatever image. you
Okay,
want.
so
So just stop share.
yeah.
Or,
How do
and
I
then you
share
go
the screen?
to-
I know normally I can do that, but I don't know how.
In the meantime,
that one.
Andy,
Yeah,
what
go
I'm going to do is I have some hard copies and we're going to pass them on to the committee.
great.
Okay.
Can you see the new screen, the new image? Yeah.
And you did say this is right on Seventh Avenue.
It's on, yes, you can see here 7th Avenue. Here you have an extension of Waverly Place, and here you have Charles Street. So it's really a triangle. And you can see,
Do you know where Morandi is located?
yeah, it's facing Morandi. So let's go back here.
So just go ahead and.
So to show a few more pictures here.
You gotta enlarge them though.
To enlarge them?
You gotta double click it.
Yeah, okay, oh, here's the arrow. Okay, much better. We'll talk about this,
before,
yeah. So
These
this
are all
is before.
Yeah, I
This
have
is actually,
passed the
those
hard
pictures
copies
were,
around too.
those pictures were taken in 2008. It's one of my neighbors who gave me those
Yeah,
pictures.
notice that.
Yeah, notice here, my husband will actually talk about the pole here. It's another of his initiatives. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the after. And that's a lovely one.
I don't
Oh,
know if they can see this.
why?
Because I think,
After.
you have to share your screen and not the picture.
Oh, boy. So far, no.
We have pictures.
But we do
here.
have the hard copies.
We
and
have
we're
them
passing
here.
them around.
Your screen sharing is
Yeah, so
paused,
stop
why?
share.
Yeah, okay.
And then go to screen share again, share screen, yeah. There, share screen, click that, and then just one of these guys, yeah, there. And then open the picture. Can you see that photo?
It's still a,
Oh, we can see all the
It's- no.
photos, but they're tiny. They're kind of like thumbnails.
Oh, they're thumbnails.
But I do tell you that the committee is getting to see the photos because I'm passing around the hard copies
Where's the photo
without the
of the
photos.
flowers?
I had this issue
Picture
before.
of the flowers, that one there.
This issue before in another presentation.
There you go.
all right, so
So
this is
this
better.
is
So
what-
that's what the park looks
Oh,
like
that's
these
better.
days. And this is what I could see very early every morning. Frank watering, actually our building, gave the hose. And and he would have, this is around Halloween, probably would have, local school kids coming and visiting, and he will take them, to the park. Now, my husband is going to talk about the work he did with veterans and with, the monument in the building.
Right.
Yeah.
Annie, I just want to, there's somebody else, I think, who's here. Dan, is Ralph Mussolino?
He's he's here. He's also a panelist. He just has his mic and his camera on. Yeah.
I would just like to, there is somebody here from the Parks Department.
I know,
And
Ralph.
before we go further, I would just like Ralph to talk. And because he told me.
Ralph is unmuted and he's ready to speak.
Okay, great. So
Can we see Ralph?
No, but go ahead, Ralph. You have the floor.
What's that? So if you don't mind, we're just gonna have Ralph talk a minute. And Ralph, you there?
See him there.
Hi, Ralph.
Do you see me and hear me?
Yes.
We do indeed.
All right, great. I just want to say hi to Joe. Joe, I haven't seen you in years. You look great. Joe and I worked at Jackson Square for many years, and it's great to see you, Joe. So Frank, what can I say about him?
Tell us who you are for one thing, Ralph.
Ralph Mussolino, I'm the chief of operations for the Parks Department for Manhattan.
Oh, yes. I remember.
We met you. Yes, I was the manager down there. So Frank, the first time I met him, I'm walking around the district checking out my parks. I see a short little old man sitting on the bench of the park. I stop over. I'm checking out the McCarthy Square, and he goes, "Who are you?" Just like that. I introduce myself, and he goes, "Can I talk to you? This is what I want to do. Can I put some plants in here?" I says, "Frank, you could do whatever you want. This place needs help." And every month, every couple of months, I would run into him. I'd call him when I would stop by. I go, "Frank, I'm downstairs." He would shoot right downstairs. He would show me what he did to the park. And he would go, "Ralph, you think I could put birdhouses in the park?" I was like, "Absolutely." And all of a sudden, there was 10 birdhouses in the park.
And we have the artist
We have the
here.
artist here. Maybe everybody, you can come here behind. We have the artist who did, the craftsman who did the birdhouses. I have a group of 10 people. And
Okay, let Ralph continue. Okay, and then you guys will let you talk all you want.
So he was not only a great neighbor, he was a great friend. We would always talk life. We would sit on the bench. We would just talk. "How are your kids, Ralph? What's going on? How's work treating you? How's your wife?" He would just want to talk to you and just show how much he cared about the park. He said hello. Every person that walked by said hello to him. What a great job you did. And, I got to know some of his neighbors and his good friends. The doorman, we were very close. I forgot his name, but I would always go in there and ask for Frank to ring his bell.
Eugene, maybe?
Yes. And, he wanted to decorate the park for Christmas. He would call me up and I would say, "Frank, go for it." And he would do it all himself. And what I was so used to, it was like clockwork. About 2 weeks before Memorial Day, he would call me relentlessly. If I didn't answer his call, he would wait 5 minutes, call me again, and he would say, "Ralph, the flags need to be changed. Make sure you change these flags." And if I didn't do it the next day, he would call and he made sure I changed those flags. And we made sure that we took care of Frank because he was such a good friend to us. So this would be a great honor for him and his family if we could do this. And that's pretty much it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, back to you, Annie, and your husband.
Yeah. So this is, you talked about, he would throw a ceremony every November 11th, and you probably called you, and would rally, there was a trumpet player, and he would have, apple cider, and we were all there. And he actually, one of our neighbor, Barbara Seberg, did contribute to have a plaque put, which you can see here on the monument. That's
that's around 15 years ago. So my name is Jeffrey Raven. I'm the husband of Annie, and around 15 years ago, Frank spurred the rededication of the monument, which has a granite base and a tall flagpole. The monument was erected in 1943 during World War II, obviously in memory of a fellow named McCarthy, who was a 22-year-old Marine Corps private who died in Guadalcanal. And he was the first villager to die in battle in the war. And so this Frank spurred this new plaque that, because the old one was really starting to fade out, and this new one not only was very clear about what the memorial was about, but also in sign of the times, and to sort of be as inclusive as possible, brave men and women.
He had the woman added.
Was added. So I think it's really testimony to Frank's spirit, and it was essentially dedicated about 15 years ago. So every Memorial Day there were ceremonies there. A bugle would come, and Frank would organize it, and it was great. It's fantastic. So it really, this park is more than just the garden that Frank, but it was also his spirit across not only the garden but also the essence of this memorial.
Yeah, once a year you will get a little solicitation from Frank, and at one point one of our neighbors, who is not here because she's in the 90s, had actually written a poem, and one of other neighbor, who is a poet herself, said that she would read it for Arlene Nower. So you introduce yourself. He's going to read a little poem. It's very short.
Introduce yourself, please.
Can you hear me and see me, everyone?
Yep, we see and hear you. What's your name?
Husband died in
So, hi, yeah, I'm a poet and a writer who's lived at 15 Charles. My name's Yara Sugarman, and I've lived here at 15 Charles for 31 years. And I'm going to write a poem that's a tribute to Frank by Arlene Nower, whose husband also was in the war. And here's the poem. I dedicate this poem to our beloved gardener, Frank, who needs our funding for the garden bank. He buys all the plants and the flowers and the seeds. He prunes them, he waters and kills all the weeds. He dresses up the garden each and every holiday, Christmas, Easter, Halloween, Valentine's Day. All this from a volunteer whom we owe hugs and cheer. But let it be very clear, he needs the donations, as much as you can give, to allow this lovely garden to thrive, blossom, and continue to live. Please contribute all that you can. We love you, dear Frank, and it's signed by Arlene Nower. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice poem.
Do you want to say?
Now we'll it was Ralph, right? He was talking about the bird
craftsman who did the
so we're introducing you, Ralph. We're introducing the man who actually built those and designed and built those tree houses in the garden. So
good evening, Ralph. How are you? I kind of started doing this with Frank because I'm a carpenter in the neighborhood, and I usually had like a lot of leftover wood and stuff, and I do like kind of like quirky, creative things. So Frank asked me, "Well, can you make it?" Frank, I'll make it whatever you want. So I started creating these birdhouses and putting them in there, and then everybody seemed to like them. So as they would go, I'd remake them, and that was about it. And Frank loved it. And I know Frank very well.
Anybody seen those birdhouses?
Oh, yeah. They're great.
Yeah.
He's
They were
I don't know
beautiful.
if you can see.
he's better dressed today, but it's
Can you see
Yeah, but I'm not human.
Wait, we're gonna show you a couple of
Can you
birds.
see the birdhouses
Wait,
here?
no,
I mean,
yeah,
this
it's
is Frank, this is Vince.
That's
That's
a
one of
birdhouse.
his
Sir,
fantastic.
can you tell us your name again?
Vincent
House
Ginandrea.
man? What?
Vincent Ginandrea.
Okay, thank you, Vincent.
I think I
Are
answered.
there anybody else of your neighbors? I know you said you have.
Yes. Pam,
Yeah.
do you want?
So wait, did you do the other birdhouses yet?
Yeah, I showed the birdhouse.
Yeah, and identify yourself.
Can you see, thank you. Yes, sir. Let me just see, make sure that we can see, can we see? Can
Oh, we can see it. We really got to move on. We've got. other-
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi,
What's your name?
I'm Pamela Shin, and I've been in this building for more than 50 years. And I knew Frank very well. And every single morning, as I was a nurse at St. Vincent's for 20 of those years. And every morning I would walk out and see him watering and pruning and just taking such loving care of the garden. He would go out there with a broom if he had to, and with a hoe and with a rake. And he made the whole place just shine. He'll never, ever be forgotten. And I hope that we can install a fitting memorial to him.
Thanks. All right, so we do have a few more neighbors, but
So make it short.
Okay, yeah, if they make it short like that, sure, we'd love to
Yeah,
hear.
just to, just give your name, Jane. And Dr. Neely.
Here for to hear testimony.
Good evening. My name is Jane Ash. I've lived at 15 Charles for 40 years, and I think that something that made it far more pleasant every day was walking out and seeing the garden that Frank tended. I think, once again, a tribute to him would be something that we would certainly appreciate, and perhaps we can instruct our friends and neighbors who created this little tranquil piece of quiet most of the time in a very busy city. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Anybody else, Sandy?
Hello, yes.
Yes, Dr. Mealy.
Hello, my name is Dr. Marion Mealy. I live at 15 Charles Street, one floor above where Frank was on 5. So he's been my friend and neighbor for over 50 years. A wonderful man, terrific. He always cared about people, but he loved the garden. He loved the village, but especially his garden, where he tended to everything in it. And he cared about anybody who was in there, always asked how everybody is. And just a superb person. It would put a smile on your face to see him. So I hope that we could go ahead with this initiative, because I definitely support it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we had people, but who left? Tom, we have Tom Parker, who has been also a neighbor. Tom, you have anything else? He agrees with everything we said. So do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions, Janet?
Are you continuing his work? Has somebody taken ownership of the garden and is continuing the work to maintain it?
Well, Frank, longtime partner, and I think we should say, certainly a few words about Steve Bass. Yes, who has actually continued when Frank died, who has continued, and probably Ralph, Steve, Steve was younger, so he, as Frank age, he died 2 years ago, he was 87, I think, so some work had become more difficult. So Steve has taken over, but, suddenly he cannot, he travels, so it's not, we still see the plant, that they had planted still blooming, and I'm not sure who is the building still waters. Barbara, we have other neighbors, one who is not here, who continues to take care of the park. And you heard mostly people from Charles Street because it was easier to organize. But one thing to mention is that there were people, Frank was in charge, definitely. But you had other people who don't live in this building. I think, Shirley, you would say there was a petition with 240 people some of them not.
About 200, yeah, that
Yes.
were all authentic. I mean,
And not everybody.
there were 200 that were. Yep.
Yeah, 15 Charles is the biggest building in this area, so that's why you have a strong presence. It's late, but you did have people coming from, you know, all over. And I think all of us at some point, we pass by and we would stop there because Frank would be on a bench in a sun and, you know, just chatting with him. It was definitely, you know, a peaceful place and time to be.
Ben.
I kind of have a question for you. So the naming doesn't affect the squares, McCarthy Square. Right?
No, and that's what we really have to talk about.
It's a co-naming, yeah.
There are only certain corners where we can do this. There's, I think you may have noticed in one of the photographs, on Waverly and Charles, actually, that corner, there are really 3 signs, so it couldn't be there. I mean, it's McCarthy Square, and then it's Waverly and Charles. So it would have to be, it's a triangle, if you can visualize it, you've been there. So, Annie, we would have to really figure out, and I think the Department of Transportation, I guess Kate is still here to comment. What corner? There is a very large light post on 7th Avenue South between the 2 corners in the middle. So that might be a possibility, but it would be probably up to DOT to decide. Yeah.
Well, if
you don't mind which corner it is, as long as you get, oh, there you are, Kate.
Yeah, if you can,
talking about, right? The location of the possible cosign.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do it at Waverly and Charles because there are 3 signs there already, right? There's McCarthy Square and then there's Waverly and Charles. So it would have to be at one of the other corners. I mean, could DOT suggest which would be the best corner? Or maybe even on Waverly and 7th, there is a light post or a street post, but it's on the northern side. So it would be across from the triangle.
Can I jump in just really quickly?
Sure.
There is a portion of Waverly Place between 7th Avenue and Charles Street, which is essentially almost, it's just where Morandi, the restaurant, is. And it's almost like a separate little chunk of Waverly. In other words, it's sort of.
Yes, that's what I was saying, but aren't you talking
It's about
about?
100 feet long, or not even.
And it's open street now.
Yeah, and it's an open street. So we were thinking.
Could there be a plaque on the building?
Or there could be a plaque, that could be.
We have a plaque already. We wouldn't recommend plaques anyhow. We can only talk about co-naming of streets. And they would have to be on posts that already accommodate signage or lighting, right, Kate?
Also, it has to be posts that already exist and
Yes.
do we have any
correct.
post that has the street name?
So it might be, the best place might be Charles and 7th Avenue. That might be.
Okay, we're going to check and we will get back to you, Shirley, about that.
Yeah.
I'll check
Well, I
tomorrow
think
morning.
DOT also has to determine, we could mention in the resolution a couple of the locations and leave it up to DOT.
But the key point is that it has to be an
Hey,
existing pole.
what location we're talking about?
Sorry, Shirley, was that directed to me?
Yes, Kate,
What was-
sure.
Can you
Do
repeat
you
the
know
question?
that
There
the
was a rough
location,
talk.
it's a triangle, so it's 7th Avenue, east side, 7th Avenue South. Waverly on one side, Charles on the other.
Yeah.
Charles is the south side. And there are already 3 signs at Waverly and Charles.
Mhm.
So that leaves Charles and 7th Avenue South, which doesn't have a cosign, but it does, when you go in, it has the plaque that says Green Streets. Then the other side of 7th Avenue South and Waverly, yet that corner does not have a post on the south side, which would be where the triangle is. It has a post on the north side. I guess what I'm asking you guys is, if it had to be on the north side and it still would say Frank Crapanzano Lane, but it would not be right on the triangle, it would just be right across on Waverly.
So can you see the map here?
We may not be able to do it in the other sides. Kate, do you know what we're talking about?
So DOT's really, our only requirement is it has to be an existing pole or with signage or a street light. So if you tell us your preference, you know, we will do our best to accommodate it. Which
preference is, can you see the map here, the Google map on my screen or not?
I don't think you're sharing your screen.
Can you see our screen?
No.
No.
You can't? Okay, I have to.
Oh, you know yourself. I mean, think about it, where it is.
Can you see now?
7th Avenue South, there you go.
Kate, can you see it? So we
yes.
were, the preference is this. So
Oh,
the
wait a minute.
building where Frank lived is here. That's Morandi Restaurant.
Yes.
And the preference was for this block. I mean, this one doesn't have any, you know, it's the avenue.
But you're talking about a block. The corner there has 3 signs.
Yeah.
Charlotte Street and Waverly has 3 signs already. I don't think you can put a 4th sign up, right, Kate?
So it looks like what you're suggesting is I guess the northern 7th, like on the corner of 7th Avenue, on the corner of 7th Avenue in Waverly, or Waverly and Charles.
Right.
Waverly and Charles.
So
Okay.
Waverly, no, Waverly and Charles. But there are 3 signs already.
How do you know there's 3 signs?
So you can see Charles Street, which is,
Charles Street is this one, okay?
okay. And then you see Waverly.
Is here. 7th is here. The little square is here.
And McCarthy Square.
Oh, yes.
So I'm just gonna, so when we receive requests and approvals for street co-namings, our borough engineers, they go out and survey the location to determine, you know, if the requested exact corner or street sign is would work at that location. So I will say now, I'm not going to definitively say which corner would be best suited for this sign, but I would suggest having requests for the specific corners, and maybe perhaps an alternative corner if your idea is not, if we're not able to install there.
I do have one question, and maybe we can zero in on it again. Does it show where the light posts are?
Get a little bit more.
Bring it in a little bit. The other way, yeah. So, okay. There's Morandi's. You see, there is a light post in the middle of 7th Avenue South. Yeah, I can see it there. There's a light post in the middle of 7th. Yes.
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 That be acceptable? It's not on the corner, it's in the middle between Charles and Waverly. That acceptable?
Shirley, again, I'm not going to say whether or not one light pole or another is acceptable because it has to be surveyed by our borough engineers. You could request that location. Looking at Google right now, I see that there's parking signage there, so it's possible we could do the code-name street sign on that pole. But again, I can't say definitively on this call.
So the best thing to do is to say what their request is and then give alternatives. Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Stella has a question.
Stella
has a question.
What?
Yeah, will you notify us when the DOT, you know, person visits the area so we can take one of us, you know, one of us can be there and walk, you know, around with that person.
Okay, we have to move on to another committee member.
Annie, totally amazing.
Stella?
Stella.
You hear me? Yep.
Not a question, but just another example of a light post that I think could be used. On this map, there's the Mermaid Laundromat. It's across from the park. But there's a post right on that corner that only has 2 signs. It's Waverly Charles. So
Yeah, right, exactly. So if there's a possibility of putting it not quite on the corner, that's another possibility, right? Anybody else from the committee have any other questions? Okay, do any of our guests have questions or comments?
Yeah, I just.
Anybody?
If we're the guests,
And enough, we have to really move on.
thank you so much.
Yeah, just, Dan, is there anybody else?
No, but no attendees have their hands up.
Okay, great, okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah, did you want to say something more? Just
Sorry, I got 1
goodbye.
second. Yeah, goodbye, 1 second. Trying.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
We would just say in order of priority, it would be Waverly Place would be #1 priority between 7th Avenue and Charles Street. That would be the preference. After that, it's everything, everything is
Around the park.
around the park, but that would be the preference.
Yeah, but that's the one that has the 3 signs, okay. For Charles, but I'm writing.
Thank you
it
so
down.
much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Ralph, thank you.
Nice to see you, neighbors, so united.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, gang, we're gonna
Thank
move
you very
on.
much. Goodbye.
Budget. Okay, so does everybody have a copy of one of these? We have a whole bunch, you know what, why don't you pass them around? And you know what, Susan or Rocio, can you pass those things around, and whoever didn't get one?
Everybody has one already, right?
Did you take one? Everybody take one, right? Okay.
I won and I got my thoughts.
Let me just, I have so many papers. So I will say that, let me just get rid of this and get on to the next.
Why do we have the open street packet?
But, because that's from this, I'll tell you why. when we get to it, Okay? Because that's not the first. First is the budget stuff we had from last year.
Got it.
It's not only open streets, it's other things too, if you look at the rest.
No, I look, yeah.
Let's.
Three capital and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
8 expense.
So before you have, so Mark, you there? Because Mark is gonna put that on screen too. Mark? Where he is.
He's gonna, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll put it on soon.
Well, I can just, I mean, there's 3 capital that we're looking at, plus
What?
anything else.
And expense, yeah.
Yeah,
but
and then
you
there's-
have these charts you can look at. I have circled, this is the budget register of what our requests were last year, plus the responses. And I've simply put little markings along the traffic committees. Oh, Mark, can we get that up on screen now this time?
Sure.
Great, okay. The budget
Okay.
register, okay. Soon we'll have the budget register for you who are out there online. Okay, so we just have to go over these. Some of these things actually have been done. But as we go along, it's more a matter, I guess, of saying, what do we want to keep? And do we want to have them in the same position? Simple as that. So the first one is,
Beyond the first one, number 9 there is,
right, any of them that the
it's
first,
not appropriate now because there's a big building going up and it's like under construction, so it should be dropped a bit. There's nothing they can do about it this year anyway.
okay, so should we have it as a continuing support or
It
something?
should happen, but the one that's super important with Morton Street School there and all these kids riding these fast electric bikes going up the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
but you can't do one without the other.
Can't do Morton Street without Clarkson?
Oh, Morton, I'm sorry, I'm thinking.
You're saying to reorder the.
Wait a minute.
Reorder so that
Before
Morton
we
goes.
go on, how about let's make this continuing support then?
Sure.
And that way it's kind of relegated, but it's still there. How's that?
Yeah,
sounds good.
So I'm just gonna say CS. Okay. The next thing is, okay, I emphasize that we have to, Capital, right, okay. So Morton Street. Everybody.
I wish Katie was here.
That is our number one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. We know what that is. We need, it's the same thing as Clarkson.
Right.
No, Morton Street is the
the
bike lane.
Same thing.
Yeah.
To keep bicycles off the sidewalk first and foremost, because these are Belgian block streets. The bicycles, it's not so great for the bicycles either. We need a granite path and we need a continuation. Okay, in pace. Okay, we agree. That's one. Okay. All right, next is, now this is one, this has been on forever. Have you looked at this? It's really Belgian block repairs. And at this point, to tell you the truth, I don't know what's been repaired or not. Does anybody else? Take a look.
Yeah,
In
those have been-
other words, these are repairs. I have a feeling that maybe something has been done on Vine Street. Is that?
Little West, 9th, yeah, I think Gansevoort and Little West, 12th Street between 9A and 8th Avenue have been repaired. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's out.
14th Street between 9th Avenue and 9A may have also been. Anything in meatpacking has been really well taken.
Yeah, the meatpacking has done all that western stuff. What about?
I don't think Bond is.
Bond Street and
And I cross the intersection, all
Yeah.
the time, and the intersection is very uneven on both sides of Lafayette. And as well as the east side at Broadway. And it's a tripping hazard and there's tons of chips, so that's,
Yeah.
So what would we ask for in that case?
we just pull out the other ones and ask them to repair it.
And there's, and so it would still be Bond Street between Broadway and Bowery and Worcester between Houston and Canal?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the worst street, Worcester.
So keep
Worcester is
that
like a
and
mess.
keep it in the same position? That would be number
So we'd-
3.
So we'd have two,
There's a fight.
because we moved continuing support. We
You wanna
moved,
do continuous?
no, I'm sorry, there's only,
Now we've only got one before that. We've got the Morton Street.
yeah, so there's
So this
two
would be,
for
you wanna
capital.
make this number 2?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
all right. Continue, so we've got, okay, that's fine. So we've got continuing support for Clarkson. Morton will become our number 1. And still for these 2 other streets, number 2, on the east side. Okay, so we're moving on to expense.
I have a global comment on expense.
Yeah.
I went, there's 8 different items, ignoring the ones that have been done. And obviously we may have more. I would like to, I put them into, there's congestion, there's safety, and then there's Petrosino Square. I would like to move.
Petrosino Square number 1 because it's been forever and they're really gonna.
I know, but my personal preference is to move the safety ones up versus congestion, because I'm tired of like every 10 years, somebody dies and then it finally gets fixed. So that's my big picture comment.
You mean after Petrosino Square?
After Petrosino
Okay,
Square.
Petrosino is still number 1. Now, which ones would you want to move up? And everybody take a look. What numbers are they on this chart?
The number 23 is a safety issue. It's a signal at West Houston and Worcester.
Yes.
Number 26 is a safety issue. You wrote because Stonewall, the Stonewall intersection at Christopher.
26?
26.
Yeah.
32 is a safety issue. I think 32 is a really big safety issue. West Houston between Washington and West. And it's now that we got rid of the overpass that has been on for several years, cars make even faster turns, and Pier 40 is heavily.
With the elimination of the overpass?
Well, it's not the overpass, it's no longer covered by a building.
All right, okay.
So just makes the cars whip around so much faster. I mean, everything about that is unsafe. I don't even like crossing to get to the West Side Highway on a bike there. And then the last one, we sort of covered a portion of that tonight, is the first agenda item, number 35. That's a broader one, Greenwich Avenue, 6th Avenue, and West 8th Street.
Hold on. All right, well, how does everybody feel?
I agree with prioritizing. Sorry, I would just like to say very strongly that I agree with prioritizing safety here, just as a way of looking at this in general.
Safety first.
We all agree.
I also think that the highest traffic place is exactly what Janine was talking about, which is Houston and West. It's a disaster. I do it every day. And even coming from the bike path north, you actually have to speed through it to get past. And you almost, I ride my bike, but you almost hope that there's a lot of pedestrians, so it slows down traffic. It really is, something is gonna happen.
Yeah, it's really bad.
I can't believe
Which one is that?
number 32, there's 4 safety ones, and I think that's
to make number 32.
That's the one that affects
It's the most.
and families.
After Petrosino, number 32 becomes 2, right?
I think so. And that also, that whole relooking at that area
Let's decide.
ties into the resolution.
Okay.
Here too.
And there's also on the south of that intersection is the new Google headquarters. And on the north of that intersection is going to be a new building with luxury housing and senior affordable housing. So you're going to have slow moving seniors, maybe not the ones who are 62. But there's going to be more people living there.
Okay, everybody agrees anyhow. That's number 2. Okay, what do you want to make number 3 of those? Input, number 26.
I mean, I just don't know. I mean,
number 26, because now you've got that museum there too.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah, the center, the Stonewall Center.
Yeah. Is that what they call it? They don't call it Stonewall
It's a
Museum?
center.
Stonewall Center? Okay. I mean, should we make that one number 3?
Visiting center. It's called a visiting center.
Okay. Well, how about it, guys?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we had number 2, now we've got number 3. Okay, there was another one too.
I
right?
would put Houston and Worcester as 4.
Oh,
Because
what
people,
number is that?
it was 23.
Okay,
Before
hold on a minute, hold on a minute. 3, that's number 4, right? Okay. You're making it very easy. All of you preferring the safety issues. Is that it?
Well, there's one more, number 35, which I'm not sure how you want to deal with that because tonight's resolution is going to cover a portion of that location.
Oh, yeah, I had down as my comment, and that was before tonight, revisit, wait a minute, no, that's 6th Avenue and 8th Street.
And it says Greenwich Avenue as well. On the third line.
That's that intersection, but now they're having the bike lane. And Janet, I was gonna ask you about that because you have a familiarity.
I've driven, today I rode up 6th Avenue.
Yeah, so.
Is it
but
done?
they're going to
No,
have
the
an-
lines are in. Yeah, yeah, and it's
But
gotta be
it's that whole intersection will change now, right?
Right,
Well,
well,
it'll change on 6th Avenue.
Protected by, well, this was 6th Avenue. It was the entrance to Greenwich Avenue, 6th Avenue. This was not about Greenwich Avenue.
Oh, okay.
This is about 6th Avenue.
Yeah, it mentioned 6th Avenue.
Do we
It mentions
want
Greenwich as an
to wait?
Or move this to
and
continuing support.
Until we see what happens with the bike lane?
Well, I don't know, but is this not more about the pedestrian crossing? They didn't
Well,
really
it's the
say
whole
anything about.
intersection. Well, if you're putting in a protected bike lane and extending it, then the whole south side is going to have a narrowing.
Yeah, but by how much? Not by that much.
Well, actually,
Well, that's the
it's
question,
very
I don't-
substantial because if they're taking away a lane of traffic.
Is it a whole?
They're taking away, they're reducing from a lane, they're putting in a fully protected bike lane. It's gonna be fairly wide. And we did ask for a concrete pedestrian island at this intersection.
We did, I don't know whether.
Yes, but this was kind of a priority intersection with a concrete pedestrian
Yeah,
island.
okay, my other question is this. and you know, because you were at the Parks Committee meeting, at the Parks Committee meeting, some of these things that were not decided were decided to be put back on a future agenda.
Yeah.
Would you want to do that, to wait until the lane is in and then decide because we may not need any of these kinds of improvements, or we may need other ones.
I think we would do two things. We would revise this text, as Janet noted, to note the concrete pedestrian island and so forth, and have it at a future meeting once we see the bike lane installed. So we would do both.
And the bike lane is with the concrete pedestrian island. It was not part of this.
Oh, it isn't.
Yeah.
Oh, it is installed.
Do we know that they're going, we don't know. We asked.
We don't even know if they're gonna do it.
Yeah,
We
we don't
don't
know
know.
if the concrete barrier is.
It might just be paint with bollards.
Got it. So
We
maybe
might-
we put this continuing support so we know it's on the list for next year
Or,
and have a
or
meeting.
put it on the agenda and wait until.
Well, I think we should still keep it on the list as continuing support, just so we know it's, otherwise these things disappear.
Yeah.
Right.
Just leave it.
Continuing support, that's fine. And then maybe also put it on the agenda once.
Well, on the agenda.
Like
Some of the stuff that was just brought up about reimagining Greenwich Ave Street. Maybe it's a one-way street with a two-way bike lane, like a total reimagining of what happens to Greenwich Street.
Yeah,
I
but
love
that's
the two-way
Greenwich Avenue.
Avenue.
That's Greenwich Street.
Avenue.
I mean, Greenwich Avenue.
Yeah.
Maybe we get rid of the, west moving traffic because it's sort of a slip lane and just have it one
Yeah.
way with two.
Well, this had to do really with Sixth Avenue and that whole dangerous intersection.
Right.
And part of it was the entry to Greenwich Avenue.
Right, but if
You try to cross there every
in
time.
a future resolution, if we eliminated that right turn, then it becomes a safer intersection.
Okay. We'll wait to see what they do with the bike lane.
Okay.
Continuing support. So that was number 35. So that was it. That
So
was
there's
the
3
deed.
congestion ones left on the list. Number 17, number 30, and number 33. Or 33 is a shared street.
Wait a minute, number 1, now we're talking congestion.
Yeah,
No,
we've
that's
got 1
not
through
listed.
4 already.
Wait a minute, we got number 2. Oh, okay, we don't have, the bike lane. Number 13, priority 13, done, out. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yes.
So that, cross that
Good.
off, okay. Then do you want to go to congestion?
Well, that's all that's
Now
left.
We're over, number 17 is congestion.
17 is congestion, 30 is congestion, and 33 is a shared street.
So 17, congestion, 9th Avenue, this was brought up by Donna Raftery. And who lives in the area, and she said there's a lot of confusion at that corner. So do we want to keep them in the same position?
I don't have a strong feeling on the last 3 items.
Okay, let's keep them in the same position.
And then we go 5, 6, and 7.
And then, hey, we're almost done. So the number 1 was the
Petrosino.
Petrosino, of course. I forget that. So this is, we have a number 2.
Number 2 is,
2, 3, and 4,
2 is
yeah.
former 32, 3 is 26, I can email
Right,
this to
yeah, I
you.
got it.
4 is former 23, 5 is 17, 6 is 30.
Wait a minute, 5 is 17?
That's what.
Okay, number
What's going on over there?
Right, okay.
6 is 30 and 7 is 33.
With the color coding.
Oh, Janine.
Check that box, okay. Move on to the
Wait a
next
minute,
one.
now what is it? What is your homework? 36?
Oh, sorry.
7 is 33, right?
Yes. In fact, I'll let you have it. You can take this, but you might not be able to read my handwriting.
Okay, great. Okay, done with that. Okay. In addition, I had sent you, and now you should have up in front of you. Open Street. 3 resolutions. We passed since the last budget requests, okay? So one was about open streets, which was for a comprehensive study of open streets, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the reason I brought it in, because it was for a study, And there, if you recall the meeting, it was on several open streets, which we commented on about, that there were really concerns, I think, for one thing, of how the open streets form a network or don't, and how they relate to each other, and where they're not working. And so we have suggested a study in this resolution to kind of clarify and come up with a real plan as to a coordinated system of open streets. So the question is, it would be a good one for budget requests, but I'm throwing it out to you as part of budget requests, and this would be a study, so it would be in expenses.
I think this would be a good project for those interns.
We did do this project with the.
Okay, so we have our.
We did because they looked at Spring Street and Prince Street and.
Yeah, but that was.
They closed a couple of those streets.
So the intern, I mean,
Well, they did
another one.
But this is about open streets. Those were about.
No, that's the open.
No, they were open.
Oh,
In
okay.
response, actually, some restaurants are closed, and so some of these things, the specifics of certain open streets have actually, they've been closed for the time being. And mostly because, it really hasn't been coordinated. Okay?
Well, also you need you need a group or a business or a series of volunteers to run the open street.
Exactly, so that's part of it. You
Design
need
something.
really committed kind of sponsors, which we haven't had.
And
So
opening up the barrier for the emergency vehicles, which is very difficult because sometimes there's nobody there.
But they should design them
Yes,
better. You have to
sponsors.
use a barrier that someone has to come out and move. That's a really.
To move barriers.
There has to be a designated part of.
We know that, look, we have a resolution. I'm simply saying, I think it should be a budget request.
Yeah.
Do you agree or not? I will move on if not.
Yeah.
You agree?
I agree, Shirley, because as it exists now, it's incoherent and basically
Right.
somewhat
Now,
chaotic.
yeah.
And I think there's no reason not to support something that leads to a more intelligent and coherent.
Does everybody agree?
Yes.
Okay, next, which number? Where do we want it? Do we want it as a real priority? Because we can stick it,
It's expense still,
it's an
right?
expense. for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I agree with Daniel. Lower on the list.
All right, do we make it after?
Is
all
it
these
before
others?
the congestion ones or after the congestion?
I mean, it's a wish list.
Yeah.
It's ideal to say after.
Yeah, because this requires more citywide
Oh, what
changes.
do we do? Oh, this, wait a minute, what are we, I'm getting mixed up.
Said they do things piecemeal.
Ah, you know, we
Can you look at the
cover
whole
something.
street?
No, 36 is continuing support, or 35.
Yeah, 36 we didn't say. We had number 7, right, was our last one? Is that correct?
Sorry.
It was
36, oh.
33. No, 36 we didn't talk
Oh,
about.
this is more traffic congestions.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, that's more congestion, so, sorry, I did miss
Number
out.
7 was the last. Do we want to put this as number 8?
Yeah, so 36 is number 8.
No, not 36.
One more.
This.
I think this is.
Open street.
Oh, this
Number
is
8.
our last.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 8. No, we didn't look at 36, and I was very iffy. I'm sorry. I didn't say, hey, let's look at that. We got carried away with the important ones. This was, it's a hodgepodge, okay? And people complain, but this was a couple of years back that they complained. And so I'm thinking to myself, maybe this should not be on the budget request, but maybe we should revisit it again. In other words, it's kind of like nobody's talking about it anymore.
I think it's just, this is not gonna,
It's too undefined.
it's too undefined. It's
So
like
should
fix
we
everything
cut
in the
it out?
Far West Village.
Cut it out?
Yeah.
Okay, great, okay. So that brings us back to other resolutions, and we have to fit them in number for.
You have the
Parking
bus.
studies? Oh, done, Angela.
So there's 2 other things, the Mulray Square.
Oh, Mulberry Square, which we just looked at in July,
I think that's a priority.
and also the bus expansion. on 9A, which we looked at in July. So you're both, I would assume you're all pretty familiar. That's the last thing we just looked at. If you want to look at the resolutions, you can. But basically, Mulberry Square really needs a study.
And this is a safety
9A really needs an extension. Do we want to move those up? Oh, a proviso. This is the first time in ages that we're even considering putting in something for MTA New York City Transit. I conferred with Mark. The Department of City Planning somehow indicated you could submit a request for transit, although it's through the state. We, at one point, had been told never to do this again. So now we're kind of in the middle. And so Mark says, you know what, put it in. But the question is, where do we put these?
Okay, well, as Janine said, to put safety as a priority, this 7th Avenue intersection is a priority.
Mulberry Square is probably the major priority. So we should move that up. Okay.
Do we want to move it? I mean, because we have, in terms of safety, of Houston and West Street, Stonewall, Houston and Worcester. And so do we want to move it after those? So that would be.
Right after Houston?
I would put it after Houston.
You would say, okay, so you move it 2.5.
Okay.
I'm gonna call
that's
that,
after-
so you have to renumber
okay.
everything.
So, yeah, all right, 2A, I'll put. Okay, so that's 2A for Mulberry. And okay, Dan, you're the guy.
Yeah, well, the bus route is such a larger issue because it actually comes into, the other safety issue of Houston and West, and it comes into, we don't have the right kind of transportation on 9A. When I wrote the resolution, Shirley took out all my historical references, which is fine. And where the road was, where it came from, when no one lived there, and there's so many people that live there now, and now there are a lot of cycles, and the reason that the streets are made the way they are were for trucks, and the trucks don't want to be there. 9A is like a central issue, but it's a big issue that's going to take a long time. Brad Hoylman has he has a study going on right now, as we know. The advisory council passed a resolution. We have to do something about it because you've got the fast moving cycles on the Greenway. They don't belong there. We need to find out, you've got Mark Levine is coming. He came out recently with something supporting, re-looking at it. So it's huge. It's a very important thing. And I think we have to show our support for it because there seems to be a lot of political will behind it.
Energy around. Yeah.
That's a point. So
You're saying put it
is-
after safety and before congestion and open streets?
Up there.
So what
Okay.
number is
Saying,
that, Janine?
yeah.
Would you,
You've got all those numbers.
that would be, it would be 4.5. I'm just gonna call it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, yeah.
And then, I'm just gonna suggest that we should have a meeting with CB 1, 2, and 4. And
Well, I sent my draft with the historical references to Tammy, who's the chair, Jessica, who's also the chair of FORCE, sits on that committee. And I'm the alternate now, but yes, everybody's aware of it. You have community board-wide support,
Right.
but all those references were taken out by Shirley.
Steve said in the first draft.
Why did you?
so hard. He was giving some historical background and then he said, but they're all.
I remember when I said it, and Jessica Chait said, and Christine Burnett said, and Tammy also said.
No, I had the historical. Go look at that resolution. What I pulled out was simply that there are other improvements you put in that needed to be made, and we need a meeting with Brad's people too on what improvements.
New business, we should actually speak about that, and that's a good point. We should bring up the history of it and why the road doesn't work today. Even the way it's designed, you have horizontal slabs to make sure it doesn't break, but it's really loud, and you have the park next door. Any big truck completely drowns out the noise in the park.
We would
The park wasn't
probably-
there when the 9A was built.
9A conditions.
And we would probably get a lot of political support with Whalen and Levine.
Yeah,
both looking
remember
at
we spoke about getting Caroline Wexelbaum, who's from Brad's office, tell us all about the study and then do.
We should invite her. I agree with you, and I think I said that. We should invite her to talk about the update.
Definitely. Yeah, so we said
Federal funds.
future agenda. Okay.
Get Dan
So on
Goldman
this
on
one,
board
I
and
think
Schumer on board.
We have covered Well, unless anybody else wants to add something to the budget that you have in mind.
Okay.
So now you understand, gang, that this is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we always somehow get shunted into 90, 300 and so on. So maybe we have to fight hard to try to get these things as a bigger priority. Those of you who attend the executive committee. So whatever, anyhow. So nobody else here has any new ones, right? Okay, so how about any of our guests out there of the community have any budget requests you'd like us to go to bat for?
I saw only like 3 people on before, and that's why I took it out.
And maybe they were on for other things.
Nobody's chatting either, so I think you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, we're good.
We have to go over the resolutions, so we're gonna write?
Yeah. What resolution?
2?
The co-name.
Today. Agenda.
Agenda item 1.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Seemed too easy, right? Okay, so the first one, okay, my suggestion is, obviously, we talk about the terrible corner, right? And then what recently happened. And then put in the suggestions.
Yes.
Yeah, and all the suggestions that were enumerated, and maybe a few I'll put that I think should be priority.
Can
What
we
do I
get
think?
the slides and put some of those pictures in the resolution for people?
If somebody can do it, I
mean,
don't know how.
Do we have the slides to transportation?
Oh, well, I
alternatives?
think I sent you all those.
Oh, well, we do have them,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
So,
Would
yeah,
you be willing?
yeah,
All right, look, I always send a draft around.
yeah, I'll put the pictures in because some people will just need a visual, some people are visual.
Oh, no, it's true, it's true. It's okay.
Leave them in with the resolution or at the end of the.
Oh, wait a minute, we
Put it at
don't
the
have pictures, hold on, we don't have pictures of Greenwich and,
Oh, but now you can take a screenshot.
yeah, and 10th, I mean,
We have.
they didn't send any.
But Google's.
We can get a Google.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'll hook you up with
The only
pictures and
thing
it'll
we put
depend
in-
how it's written.
We had put in the article already for everybody to look at on the website. So I don't think you need the article.
No, I'm just saying for the board members, sometimes people just need to visually understand and that presentation was really helpful. And I think the resolution should say, because there were obviously there was a lot of confusion here about the sidewalks recommendation.
Yeah, there should be a picture.
And I would probably take the picture and add an arrow and say it's flat.
Oh, okay. Whatever the case, I will pass it around anyhow. As usual, you will edit, suggest, blah, blah.
Is it appropriate to add, we recommend all these things and we further, put like a pin in it that we further recommend a more complete study of the entire avenue?
Why not? How about it, Ken?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So.
Yeah, because the next street up is.
In Greenwich, all the points,
Okay, great, yeah.
plus
Right.
further
Carter's Point. should have been one way,
recommend,
Street.
study
Bus route.
of entire Greenwich Avenue.
Yeah, and do you want to say and consider possibly turning it into a one-way street going west to east? Do we want to throw in any of the things that were discussed?
Janet, tomorrow,
Okay.
next day, send me what you have in mind.
By
Because
the
that'll
way,
be
should
all
it go
there.
east to west? Because Bleecker goes west to east.
But I feel like it
It
goes
needs to
into
go,
8th Street.
you're right, it needs to go towards the west.
I think it has to go.
And there-
That's another.
Okay, let's,
resolution.
let me
Yeah.
just say, conflicts
It's not part of this.
corner. No, I need a whereas.
Yeah.
Hey, I need a whereas, so give me a whereas. It's probably something like, there are conflicts at every corner.
Whereas there's a lot of trappic, it's a bus route, it's very busy, it's very
So
unsafe.
there's conflicts all the way from Sixth Avenue.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
7th Avenue.
Right, because.
And a lot of competitive needs.
Be it further as
I
well.
like that, competitive
That's fine.
needs.
Okay, the other one. I just want to read you what she sent me. I think I sent it to all of you anyhow. I have so many pieces.
Yeah, what,
You have a raised hand.
What?
we now have a raised hand, but we need Mark.
We have raised.
We're in
I
the.
can go here.
section. We're in
But it
business
isn't-
section.
Yeah, we're in this, raised there.
Yeah.
It was just me. I had my hand raised. I just wanted to, I looked a little further into the one way just for Janet's, so Janet knows, because I know Janet's been, with 8th Street. 8th
Yeah.
Street and Greenwich Avenue historically were the same width. 8th Street, at some point, something changed historically. They were both 40 feet wide. 8th Street is a little narrower now, but
Yeah,
they were all the same
wide
treatment
sidewalk.
all the way through.
That's right.
Yeah, they may have changed something, but I think it's important to note because it's just historically they're not different, even though they may seem different now. They started off the same, and that was from the borough president's maps, which has all the historic roadbed widths.
Thank you. And do you see, was 8th Street two ways at one point?
I think it ran the other way, actually, historically.
But there was a trolley on it. Remember George
Yeah.
Michaelis?
And he's still trying.
He's still trying.
So what that was before all our.
Or are you
Trying to
saying
get-
to go the other direction?
Surely.
Oh, no, I'm not picking, it makes more sense to go east. I just say it should just be one direction, whatever it is.
And now we have our,
Okay, the cone naming, I just want to read.
Naming.
What?
we have our co-name.
Thanks, Sam.
We have our we have Father Crapanzano.
McCarthy Square, okay, I just read you something. Oh, the cone name, okay. Look, you all know our guidelines.
Yes.
This guy fits the guidelines.
Yes.
100%. I just want to read you the little bio, which I sent you, but I want to read it for any of our guests too, because I think this says it about this guy. This was like a dump, okay? McCarthy Square, I don't know if any of you remember that.
Yeah.
And single-handedly,
It's amazing.
he just took it upon himself to plant the whole thing, kept it up, got contributions even from Moranti and his neighbors. I mean, I've never seen anybody who fit our guidelines more, who is such a community. Okay. Well, we don't care about where he was the guidance counselor in the first house project originally. And taught 21 years, passion for dance and theater. So he was also a member of SAG and had a successful career as a print model. Fascinating. Okay. He lived at this particular location from 1974 until he died in 21. He decided when he retired from teaching and counseling, he decided the neglected piece of land viewed from his 5th floor apartment needed his attention. He turned a weed-filled triangle plot of land into a beautiful oasis, which is now on the New York City Registry of Places to Visit. Anyone who knew Frank realized everything he touched was left better than before. He physically did all the work for 10 years. And really, from what I'm told, it was really he who did most of the work. After major heart surgery, as Annie had said, his partner, Stephen Barr, took over. But Frank remained involved until his passing. And here is a quote from the Greenwich Village Block Association News in autumn 2008. If anyone has doubts about the positive changes one person can make, stroll over to McCarthy Square, Charles Street, 7th Avenue South, long overlooked. Its savior appeared in the form of Frank Crapanzano, a longtime resident of 15 Charles Street.
Nice.
So it kind of says it all. So, I mean, discussion?
Perfect.
Need to find a poll.
All in favor, all in
Yeah.
favor.
All in favor. I wish I had 2 hands to raise in favor.
Yeah, I mean, I never heard of anybody who was so dedicated. And Ralph had told me over, Zoom, the whole story, which he didn't tell all of it. But it was just amazing. This guy I think he started small and then he got carried away and kept buying plants and putting more in. Yeah, and now I think people come, like tourists come. They take a look.
Get rid of those tourists.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really
good.
beautiful.
It's good.
It's
And
just what we need.
I think, was it you, Jen, or Dan, that brought up, I hope that whoever is succeeding him.
I know, because they didn't have a quick answer to that. It's not like, oh, we've organized and we've got like a group. It's like, oh, his husband, his partner.
Who's also elderly.
And not around because he's traveling so much. Oh, but the building wonders it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyhow.
Now work it out.
obviously,
I'll figure it
pass
out.
Okay, so let's see, we got unanimous on everything, right?
Yes.
9A, conditions right?
Yep.
Capital budget and Mulvey yeah. Not Mulvey, Greenwich Okay, so you know more or less, and Janet, you'll send me what the whereas or basic.
Yeah, a few whereas and what.
And I mean, we've
what
got
Mark
lots.
mentioned. Whereas.
Now that we're at the end of the month.
I just have
We
two
have to wait practically till the end of the month.
Right.
So I'll get
That's
the
okay.
resolutions to you within the next week or two, I guess, couple of weeks. And that's it.
It's
So
fine.
that was fun. I mean, it's always nice to have something where you really care about it and agree and all that stuff. Okay.
Thank you, Shirley. Oh, Shirley, one little thing.
Yeah.
On the first resolution, when asked about the location of Sixth Avenue, but it's Waverly. So just make sure.
No, it doesn't matter.
Night, everyone.
That's what they asked for, okay?
What they asked for is correct here, but what you asked them was a different West 10th, stop sign at West 10th and Waverly, but when you were speaking about it, you called it 7th Avenue. I got it. So I just want to make sure you wrote it correctly.
You know what?
It's 10th and Waverly, that's all.
No, it's not 10th and Waverly.
Where they want the stop sign? Yeah, it is.
No, it's not. There's no 10th Street there. It's Waverly or